Okay, so I got a DM recently with an idea for a YouTube video, and I thought it was actually quite a good idea. So shout out to Nate S for this one. So here's the thing. I think by now we all have a good idea of A.K.I's strengths as a character. She has the much hated combo of slow fireball plus fast drive rush, and she has arguably the best burnout pressure in the game. But the suggestion I received was something like, what do you think are the most underrated things about your own character? You know, the kind of things that you don't really appreciate until you have to fight without them. And I've been thinking about it a lot lately because of my recent Chun-Li arc, and I compiled a list of what I think are the top 5 most underrated things about A.K.I. So the kind of stuff that might not be as obvious a selling point if you haven't played A.K.I for a million hours, but the kinds of things that as soon as I switch to a different character, I suddenly wish I had them. Before we get started, I'd really appreciate if you guys could hit subscribe. If I catch anyone watching this video without being subscribed, I will come to your house and I will secretly install a shower head with slightly disappointing water pressure. You have been warned. Okay, so number 1 on my list of underrated A.K.I tools, I'm going to start with what I think is not only A.K.I's best jump normal, but potentially a contender for the single best jump normal in the game, even though I rarely see people bring it up, which is this thing right here. Jump down heavy punch. So when I first started playing A.K.I, when she first came out, I didn't like this normal. It was one of those things where I was like, this normal is awkward to use, it's finicky, it's like, it only hits cross up, the angle is a little bit unusual, and it feels kind of bad to use. Like, I did not like this thing because it does lose out on one key privilege of a lot of cross-ups, which is that it can't hit on both sides. So for example, like with something like a traditional jump medium kick, the benefit of this is that you can land in front and do it, and you can land behind and do it, right? While A.K.I loses the privilege of being able to hit in front with jump down heavy punch, what you get in return is an absolutely insane jump normal, which is incredibly versatile offensively and defensively. The reason this normal is so good offensively is because this is one of the rare cases where you can forward jump almost point blank and still catch your opponent's throw recovery. The angle on this thing is so steep. As you can see here, even when I'm like really close to the opponent, it will still hit them. So what this means is that, so if I do something like this, a basic tick throw setup, and I suspect my opponent is going to try and delay tech here, I can shimmy, but I can also choose to do jump down heavy punch. So this is incredibly privileged. This specific interaction of simultaneously being able to punish the delay tech while also side switching is pretty much one of a kind. I think Zangief might be able to do something similar with Body Splash, but this is incredibly rare in this game that you can get that punish there. And this is especially useful if I land this while my back is to the corner, because the mind game here is really strong. So if I do this in this position, for example, if my opponent is paying attention, they'll be aware that back throw is incredibly threatening right here, right? So if I set up this tick throw when I'm near the corner, my opponent is going to be terrified of getting back thrown, because then I can just, you know, start corner pressuring them to death. So in this position, a lot of people will go for a delay tech because they do not want to be back thrown into the corner. And that's where this becomes an amazing mind game. You do this. Not only do you get the corner, but you also get a full combo out of it as well. So offensively, amazing. Defensively, and this is where I think it becomes even more insane, is this normal's utility as a corner escape. So jumping out of the corner is a very common option in this game, but for most of the casts, when you jump out of the corner, you kind of have to empty jump. And the reason for that is that if you try and jump out of the corner with a cross-up normal for almost any other character, your cross-up will whiff and your opponent will punish your landing recovery. So something like this. So something like this is very common. This is the reason why most high-level players, when they jump out the corner, they won't actually press a jump normal. Because even if you have a cross-up here, most of the time it'll just whiff. And then you'll have landing recovery, which gets you punish counted, and you eat a full combo for it like that. A.K.I is one of the lone exceptions where you can actually threaten a cross-up from this position because jump down heavy punch hits so sharply. So like this. This specific angle on defense is incredible. This is A.K.I privilege right here. Almost every other cross-up in the game will not connect at this specific angle. A.K.I can. And this is also very awkward to crosscut. Like, if you're a Shoto player, for example, if you want to anti-air A.K.I jumping out the corner at that angle, it is possible to crosscut it, but it's very finicky. And a lot of the time, even like world-class Shoto players will still sometimes fail their crosscut DP on this angle. So I've won so many games over the years, purely starting from jumping out the corner with jump down heavy punch. So defensively amazing and offensively amazing. This is one of my favorite buttons in the game. Okay, number 2 on my list, and this, again, if you've watched a lot of my gameplay, you'll immediately understand where I'm coming from here, which is this right here, this 2-hit combo. Crouch heavy kick into super. So, if you guys don't know, A.K.I.'s crouch heavy kick, as well as having a really good hitbox, and also being safe on block, when you see A.K.I players single hit confirm crouch heavy kick into super, a lot of people are like, wow, nice single hit confirm. That must take a lot of skill and a lot of execution. And the truth is, for whatever reason, A.K.I.'s crouch heavy kick has a 21 frame confirm window. You can cancel this so late and it will still work. And the other thing that's insane about this confirm, this is a thing that I'm shocked has not been nerfed. So like, every single time there's a balance patch, people ask me like what I expect A.K.I to get or what I expect to get nerfed. And I always say, surely they're gonna add scaling to this combo. Because crouch heavy kick does not scale at all. So it means that doing crouch heavy kick into level 3 does 4,900 damage. It's over 50% if you have critical art. Every single balance patch, I expect them to put scaling on this normal, and they just never do. So basically, if your opponent is at or below 50% health, this becomes like one of the best pokes in the game. Crouch heavy kick is a great normal just in its own right, but it becomes like a ridiculous normal when you combine it with the single hit confirm into super. Alright, number 3 on my list, and this is quite a specific thing, but it's a thing that comes up surprisingly often. A.K.I Stan light kick, not the normal itself necessarily, but the fact that this is one of the rare examples of a 4-frame light that has unusually high hit stun. So I think this has the highest hit stun of any 4-frame light. I have to be clear, I mean hit stun, not frame advantage. So this thing is actually only +3 on hit. You cannot actually link anything after her Stan light kick. But the upside of it having a ton of hit stun is that this is one of the best lights in the game for any +0 situation, and there are a lot of them. So I'll show you guys a couple of examples of like where this comes in useful. We're gonna use Kimberly for the first example. So if you are in Burnout against Kimberly, one thing you will see all the time is Kimberly players doing this. You will see this all the time. Stan heavy punch, and I think also Stan medium punch into run stop. Which, because I'm in Burnout, this would normally be -4, but this becomes 0 in Burnout. And you might think, well, 0 isn't actually that good because she's not at frame advantage, but this actually works usually in Kimberly's favor, because by being 0, what this means is that if she attempts to press another jab after the +0, and I panic and do like a wake up super, she can actually Kara cancel the jab into a parry and block. So there are some situations in this game where being +0 is actually more beneficial than having actual plus frames. But the cool thing about this matchup for A.K.I is that because A.K.I's Stan light kick does so much hit stun, watch what happens when I take the trade with Kimberly's jab here. We both counter hit each other, but A.K.I comes out +4 in this exchange. This is very rare. Not only am I +4 in this exchange, but I'm actually +4 and in range of another Stan light kick. So you can actually get a trade combo here and potentially win the whole round off it. This has saved me so many times in this position. So getting the trade combo here is very privileged. Most characters can't do that. A couple of other examples I've got of +0 situations where this comes in really useful. So Guile doing drive rush bazooka knee is also a +0 if he does it really close. And if I'm going to use her crouch jab as an example here. So her crouch jab does not have particularly impressive hit stun. So for most characters, this is what this exchange looks like. Yeah. So for most characters, Guile's crouch jab has surprisingly high hit stun, which means that if you try and take the jab trade here, you're usually negative. So with A.K.I.'s crouch jab, I'm -1 here, and Guile actually has the initiative after this trade. But if I use A.K.I.'s stand light kick, I'm +2 now, which means I can now threaten with my 6-frame medium punch after this scramble. So you don't get a punish on this one, but you do get frame advantage, which again is quite rare in this trade. Most characters are minus after this trade, but A.K.I. is plus. Another couple of examples that come to mind, Chem players like to use, I think it's the light version of Dragon Lash, which is also 0 on block in Burnout. My players will use light Ryu Embu, which is 0 on block in Burnout. There's quite a few. So I know this sounds like really niche tech, but you'd be shocked how often this comes up. The power of a high hit stun 4-frame is not to be underrated. Moving on, number 4 on my list is the specific combination of having a +2 on block normal and a 6-frame medium, which is a privilege that maybe I can think of about 4 or 5 characters in the game have this. So A.K.I.'s forward heavy kick is +2 on block, and her stand medium punch is 6 frames, which means that there is a 4-frame gap in this string. But because I'm pressing a medium and my opponent is not pressing a medium, A.K.I. can pretty much always get a trade combo here. And the important distinction is that it's a medium combo starter. So one thing I hate when I'm playing other characters, especially I noticed this recently a lot with Chun-Li, is when I press my plus frame normal and I know for a fact my opponent is definitely going to mash, I want to be able to kill them for it. And the difference between having a +1 and a +2 normal in this game feels huge to me. So with Chun-Li, if I suspect my opponent is gonna mash after her +1 stand medium punch, like this is how much damage you get from the like typical cash out combo. That's what, 2,542 damage. A.K.I. on the other hand, 3.6k. Huge increase, and that's before any supers, so this does well over like 5.5k if you have level 3, and even more if they're poisoned. I know it's only 1,000 damage increase, but you have to think about it in terms of percentages. Going from 2.5k to 3.5k percentage-wise is a massive increase, and it definitely changes match outcomes. I'm trying to think of like all the characters that have that, like Sagat has that, Jury has that, Kimberly. But it's quite rare. It's quite rare. Most characters do not have a +2 into a 6-frame. Okay. Finally, number 5. And this is going to be kind of nebulous. This is not a specific tool, but I've written it down here as drive control. So I think we all know, and I did mention it at the start, that like A.K.I. is the final boss of Burnout, right? We all know that A.K.I. is like evil if you're in Burnout, but I think a more underrated aspect of A.K.I. is not the burnout situation specifically, but her ability to maintain your opponent's drive gauge in an uncomfortable position. So before you even get the burnout, if your opponent is down to about 2 bars of drive, I actually think A.K.I. has some of the best options in the entire game to control your opponent's drive and stop them from getting back to like a dangerous threshold, like 3 bars, where they can't DRC. So like, I think there's a couple things that come together here. Number 1, her extremely fast drive rush helps. So if your opponent tries to back off to try and recover drive gauge, they let off the gas for a second, you can close the gap so quickly. You can also harass in the mid-range with light whip to keep their drive gauge down. Forward heavy punch is great for this. Crouch heavy kick is great for this. All of these are pretty much safe if you space them correctly. Once you've successfully made your opponent back off by harassing them with light whip, they're now pushed back to like this distance, and then this is where like Fireball plus Drive Rush becomes a threat. So I feel like she has like the best options in the game potentially when it comes to like making your opponent feel like they're suffocated at like 1 to 2 bars of drive and they just can't ever seem to get it back. And it's very scary to parry. The other thing I should mention is that like when your opponent gets down to low drive like this, they also tend to panic parry, and then that's where stuff like this becomes extremely threatening. Yeah, this as well. So this is another very common situation. So my opponent is down to about 2 bars of drive. They block a heavy kick, which makes them suddenly panic and think, oh shit, I'm gonna get burned out if I don't do something. They tap parry in the panic, and now they're burned out. So yeah. I think that's underrated. Everyone looks at the burnout pressure, but no one really pays attention to what happens in the lead up to the burnout. The the situations before the burnout. She's also very good at controlling those. So yeah, I think those are, in my opinion, the most underrated things about A.K.I. Maybe if you guys let me know down in the comments what you guys think are the most underrated aspects of your own characters. And I will see you guys all in the next video.